Hello, hello. This is another episode of Motivational Monday Live with your host, Aura Elena Martinez. And this week's episode is entitled Needs, the importance of it and the consequences of ignoring your needs. Before I start with this week's episode, I would like to start off by introducing myself if this is the first time that you are watching this series, and also share with you what was it that motivated me? What was it that got me to start Motivational Monday Live? Once again, my name is Orlando Martinez, and I'm a self-discovery and empowerment coach, helping women gain total clarity in their purpose so they can wake up to daily fulfillment and certainty. Now, purpose is not to be limited to just a calling. And why is that? Because you could be living your calling and still not be living your most purposeful life. And this is because a purposeful life consists of you enjoying greater levels of mental well-being, emotional well-being, spiritual well-being, physical well-being, and why not financial well-being as well? Because I want you to remember this: every part of you and your life matter. All of it matters. All of it matters. And what prompted me to start this series is the fact that Mondays tends to be that day of the week that there are those that are like, oh my God, it's the start of another week and I gotta go to work and I gotta do this and let me tell you this. If that's the way you're starting off your week, if you're not looking forward to going to work, if you're not looking forward to how your life is, if you're not looking forward to getting out of bed because you're like, oh, it's the same thing over and over, let that feeling be your sign that something needs to change. Something needs to change because you are not designed to be living your life like that. You're not designed for that, believe it or not. And it is my desire that with this series, you look forward to Mondays, at least Monday evening, because you know you're going to be filled with goodness, because you know you're going to be filled with so much love, so much truth, and that you also connect yourself with your truth. Why does your truth matter? Because that way you live more authentically. That's what leads to true fulfillment and happiness. And also, the intention of this series is for you to always increase your level of consciousness. This is so important, and you're going to hear me say this every week. And this is because your level of consciousness dictates what resonates with you, what you're able to get, what you're able to see, what you're able to understand, what you resonate with. Just like when you are looking outside from the first floor, things look big, cars look big, people look pretty normal size, buildings look very big. But if you look at the outside from the 10th floor, things start looking a little different. You start having a different perspective of the street, right? Because cars are smaller, people are smaller, the buildings are not as big. And that's the same thing that will happen as you keep raising your level of consciousness. What was once big is not going to be as big. And what you thought was so small starts having a deeper meaning for you. When you notice that people are successful, they seem to get it, it's like that's because they're in the level of consciousness to really get it. This is why it's always important that each and every one of us are always up-leveling our level of consciousness. Once again, this week's episode is entitled Needs, the importance of it, and the consequences of ignoring your needs. Now, I had a different topic in mind for this week, but as I was thinking about that topic, it wasn't feeling that topic. And so the word that kept coming for me was needs. And I'm like, okay, what about needs am I supposed to talk about? And then what came up, the more I leaned into it, was the importance of needs and the consequences of ignoring them. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about today. And interesting enough, this topic about you knowing what your needs are is actually what I covered in the book that I published back in 2017, Creating a Lifetime of Wellness, Start Having the Life You Deserve. And that was actually the second chapter. And it was in the second chapter for a reason, because you knowing what your needs are and you making sure that your needs are met is part of the foundation of you creating that lifetime of wellness. It's the foundation. Our needs is one of those things that many of us ignore. And I include myself because I've ignored my needs for too long. And the needs that I'm referring to are not the needs of, oh, eating right and sleeping well. No, no, no. Those are important, but that is not the one that I'm referring to. The ones that I'm referring to are the ones that are so often overlooked, yet are so basic for your soul to thrive. These are the kinds of needs that are so necessary for your joy, for your mental health, for your emotional health, for your self-esteem, for the evolution of your being, for you to be the person that you are designed to be, for you to truly prosper. This is why self-discovery is at the core of everything. Whether that is a career that you want to change, or you want to change your money story, or finding love, or getting fit. Okay. This is all going to come together. So please stay with me. There's a reason why I even include being fit as part of you, of self-discovery. If you have a relationship with your body and with food that isn't a healthy one, and you think that only by hiring a nutritionist or a personal trainer, you're going to get the results that you want, you may be in for a disappointment. Because if what the problem is a relationship that you have with food, and a particular relationship that you have with your body that isn't allowing you to get to the target goal of having a better health, of you having a more fit body, there is no meal plan that's going to help you heal those wounds that you have, that is making you resort to food in the way that you are. And also, you cannot outwork what you eat. You cannot outwork what you eat. And I'm going to share the following just as an example. So back the first time that I was losing weight, I remember there was one of the hardest workouts that I've ever done. I don't know if you've heard of this workout. It's called Insanity. Yes, I did Insanity. And the first month of Insanity, I thought I did a number on my knees. So you got to be careful. Anyways, it was a good workout. I felt like I was getting a lot stronger, but I did not really see a difference in my body. And it wasn't until I spoke with a friend of mine, his name is Ozzy. I don't know if he remembers this conversation, but I know I remember this conversation very well. So at the time, I would eat like half a box or a whole box of Captain Crunch, okay? You know how much sugar that has? Well, I did not know at the time. And this was before I was a coach helping people get out of the sugar roller coaster. And so this is before I even knew anything about nutrition. And so here I am eating half a box, a whole box, because I love that cereal. At the time, I loved it. And he told me, well, Aura, well, of course you're not going to lose the weight. You know how much sugar you're putting in your body? If that's the way you're eating Captain Crunch, and, you know, no workout is going to help you lose the weight if you're eating that way. And so this is why I say that you cannot outwork what you eat. If there's a particular relationship that you're having with your food, if you are using food in such a way that isn't unhealthy, ain't no nutritionist that's going to help you with that, nor a personal trainer. And so this is why I recommend that you hire a coach. If you're wanting to lose weight, hire a coach apart from a nutritionist, apart from a personal trainer. So that way, as you are working on changing your diet, because a diet is whatever you eat, okay? You're not on a diet. You're always on a diet, because diet, what it means is what you eat. Anyways, so as you're changing your diet, you're complementing that with healing any relationships, any unhealthy relationship that you may have with food or your body or even yourself. Okay? Anyways, had to say that. Now, when it comes to your needs, it will be very important that you know several things. Number one is what stage or season you are in your life. This matters so much because according to the stage or season that you're in your life, this is going to dictate what your needs are. Your needs are very different when you're in your 20s. Let me just use a very obvious example, as opposed to when you're in your 40s. I'm sorry. your priorities may shift, your needs may be different, right? And especially if you're in your 50s, obviously your needs are going to be very different from someone that's in their 20s, right? And so I use that as an example. There's many more that it's important for you to know the season and the stage that you are in your life. There will be certain things that you require out of yourself, that you require out of others, that you require out of life, depending on the season that you're in, especially when you're younger. You require different things as opposed to when you get older. When you get older, I don't know about you, but there's certain things that I did not require out of friendships, out of life, out of myself that I now require, right? And so this is something to be mindful of. The second thing that you will need to know is where you are heading in your life. This is so important. This is so important. If you do not know the final destination that you are wanting to go to by car, it would be impossible for you to put in the GPS where you're wanting to go, right? And it's impossible for the GPS to direct you if you're not putting a final destination. Well, the same thing goes for your needs, right? What's going to determine what you need is you knowing where you're going, right? If you find yourself stuck in life, there's a good chance that perhaps you are not clear on what it is that you want and where it is that you're heading in life. And the brain and the universe does not understand maybe, okay? The universe and the brain doesn't understand maybe. There's a big chance that you're in the maybe zone, right? And that's the reason why you're stuck. You can't tell the GPS, well, maybe I'm gonna go to CVS. Well, maybe. No, it doesn't recognize maybe, right? You cannot expect to receive direction with, oh, well, maybe CVS, maybe. No, you must know exactly where you're heading. Because the reason why this matters in real life, which I didn't mention in the Spanish version, but I'm mentioning it here in English, it dictates the kind of people that you're going to need in your life. If you need mentors, what kind of mentors you're going to need in your life. If your friends have to shift, if your surrounding has to shift, this is why it matters. This is why it matters. The third thing that you will need to know is how you're feeling and how you're thinking. You may think that what you're feeling and what you're thinking doesn't matter when it comes to your needs, but it has so much to do with it. It has so much to do with it. Your emotions are information from your essence, which is your soul. Now, sometimes it can be information from some kind of layer that you're receiving. That can also happen. And when I say layer, what I mean is any limiting belief, any story you may tell yourself, any mental programming, any societal conditioning, any cultural conditioning, and the list goes on and on. And even if the emotion is coming from a layer, from some kind of fear, some kind of desperation, some kind of something, it is there wanting to communicate something to you. It is there to provide you with valuable information. It still provides you with information as to what you need so that you can meet yourself where you're at. So say, for example, you're feeling some kind of fear, right? That fear will indicate to you, well, I know that if I'm paralyzed right now, perhaps I need accountability. You see where I'm going with this? So even that layer can provide you with some kind of information. It will reveal to you, not directly, perhaps indirectly, but it will reveal to you something that you will need. No emotion has to be bad or toxic. I want you to remember that. No emotion needs to be bad or toxic. When it becomes bad or toxic, it's because you are living from that emotion. And what that means is that you are thinking from that emotion, that you are perceiving things from that emotion, you are speaking from that emotion, you are doing from that emotion, you are making decisions from that emotion. And obviously, if the emotion by you living from it, it doesn't allow you to take actions that are positive for you, then it can become toxic. But it became toxic because you allowed it to become toxic, but not because it was meant to be toxic. Do you get the difference? And I say this in quotation marks because, again, I don't think any emotion has to be bad or toxic. It just becomes that way when you live from that state. When it becomes a state is when it becomes toxic. Okay? If you learn to understand your emotions and you master them, your emotions will become your guiding system, providing you with information as to what you need to do in order to move forward. Okay? Now I want to move on to the importance of your needs and you knowing what your needs are. Now, everyone has their own unique set of needs. And even if those needs may be similar to someone else's needs, trust, there's a difference. There's still some kind of difference. And the reason why these are unique needs is because that's what we require. That's what you require to thrive. Okay? And this is why it is so important for you to be so in tune and so connected with yourself so that you know what those needs are, so that it doesn't matter if someone else doesn't understand your needs or they have something to say about your needs, and so that you can always be grounded. If you lack grounding, most likely it may be because you haven't met a need that you have. I find that when we meet our needs, whatever those needs are, we feel grounded. And the needs that I'm referring to are the needs that when they are met, you feel fulfilled within. Your soul lights up. It energizes you. It makes you feel more like you. And it makes you feel like you're coming home to you. And all this that I just said, this is not a luxury. This is a necessity. I know that we're living in a society that has conditioned us that we need to do and do and do, and our value comes from doing. We need to do and do and do and do. And the thing is, yes, there's some doing that is necessary, but it's also important for you to be. That's part of the 3 elements of living your most purposeful life. It's the being, the doing, and the vision. But there's no vision, there's no doing without the being. Okay? It's a necessity. All this that I just mentioned, it's a necessity for you to feel full within. This allows you to be able to give more to others and give in a way that is genuine. This matters. It's a necessity that your soul feels lit up, right? Because this adds more to your health. It's a necessity for you to feel energized because energy is required in order for you to reach all those goals that you have, all those dreams that you have. It's a necessity to do things that makes you feel more like you, because then you're living authentically. It's a necessity to feel like you're coming home to you, because anything apart from this separates you. It separates you from joy. Thank you for the likes. It separates you from happiness. It separates you from health. And it's opening the door to depression, anxiety, frustration. This is why it's so important for you to know what those needs are and that you make sure that you meet those needs, because there are consequences when you do not meet your needs. So what are the consequences if you don't meet your needs? Number 1, you feel empty and lost. Have you ever had that feeling of you pushing yourself to do things and you feel like your body is there, but not your soul? And no matter how much you try to change your perception, facts, says M. Anthony. Yes, facts. It's a horrible feeling to feel that way. or that no matter how much you try to change your perception and your feeling on something, you just cannot shake that emptiness that you're feeling, or you know what you must do, but you can't seem to get yourself to do it. And so this makes you feel like lost and confused. I mean, what's wrong with me, right? Why can't I get myself to do these things that I need to be doing? Probably it's because there's a need that you may be neglecting and you don't even realize it. I mean, there could be so many reasons, but this can be one of them. If you're only taking care of one part of you or your life, you're not going to be feeling good, right? It's like you're going to feel good for one thing, but you're not going to really feel really good. Life and success is not just about doing. You also must allow yourself to be. You also must allow yourself to be. When I'm at the beach and I'm walking on the sand barefoot, I feel so grounded. And that's because I'm also, not just because I'm by nature, but also because I am being at the moment. Of course, there was an element of doing because I had to get myself from home to the beach, right? But it's about being. You gotta fill up the being first. We're so quick to be like, let me do, and I gotta do this and I gotta do that, but we don't fill up the being. And that's very important. So whenever you feel like drained or tired or like it's hard for you to get things done, your being probably feels drained. Okay, so it's important to be mindful of that. The second consequence of ignoring your needs is you won't be able to be your highest self. So why does this matter? Well, those healthy, loving, delicious relationships that you crave, with those people that when you're around them, you just feel so good, so energized, on a high. Those relationships require people who are healthy themselves, within themselves. And when I say healthy, this does not refer to the physical health. This refers to them having a healthy relationship with themselves, that they feel good about themselves, that they make sure that their needs are being met, that they meet their own needs. Healthy relationships require healthy people, 2 or more healthy people, not unhealthy people. When you notice that a person hurts people, that's because that person is hurt. And by the way, if you notice that someone is hurt, it is not your job to heal them. I need to say this because probably someone needs to hear it. It is not your job to heal them. And I've noticed this more in women, more than men, more in women than men. That, say, for example, when a woman meets a guy and perhaps there's some men that do this. And if you're a guy that do this, your job is not to heal that woman, by the way. But anyways, I've noticed this more in women where if they meet a guy that isn't worth her time and he's being so mean, she justifies it. Oh, well, probably he had a rough childhood and his father did this and that. No. It is not your job to heal that person. Let that person get the help that they need. Let them hire the psychologist, the coach, the therapist, whoever it is that they need to hold them accountable, to do the healing. Let them find that person. You are not their coach. You are not their therapist. You are not their psychologist. Because if you stay there to heal that person, what's going to happen is in the process of you healing that person, you're going to end up hurt. And you better believe that the person is not going to stay there to help heal you. You're not a staircase for people to step all over you as they're going to the top. Don't be that staircase. You're not a staircase. Don't do that. Okay? Don't do that. When you notice that someone is envious, I can guarantee you that person is not happy with themselves or with their life. This is why it's so important to do the inner work, to work within yourself. to make sure that you are taking care of your needs, because you can only give what you have. And even if you fake it, even if you fake your way, well, let me fake love, give love, even though I don't feel any love inside. Sooner or later, that mask is going to get pretty heavy. It's going to get pretty heavy, and you're not going to be able to sustain it. The way to lighten the load is by doing the work. And the more you lighten the load, the more you're able to see things differently. You're able to see yourself clearly. You're able to understand your actions and why you do the things you do and where it comes from and why you think the way you think, right? It's going to have you think differently. And the more you lighten the load, because you're able to see things more clearly, see yourself clearly, see your life clearly, you're able to be more of your higher self. And so the more you are your higher self, your best version of you, sincerely, you being who you really are, the more you're able to attract healthy relationships to you, healthy people to you. The third consequence of ignoring your needs is you will be missing important pieces of the puzzle of you and your life. So I'm going to share the story again. I've shared it in other either episodes or in social media before, but I'm going to share it in this episode. So I remember the moment I turned 30, I hit this wall of frustration. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter the fact that I was in Rome and the hotel room looked like a mini apartment. It didn't matter that I was traveling every week to my favorite country. My favorite country is Italy. It didn't matter that at the time I weighed 112 pounds. I weighed what I used to weigh when I was a teenager. I mean, who wouldn't be happy looking like they were a teenager, right? And none of it mattered. It didn't matter that I was able to use my language, like nothing mattered. And I knew better. I knew that frustration, I felt it for a reason. And so I decided to lean in. And thank God I did, because it was there for a reason. It was there because there was a calling. There was an expansion of me that was necessary, me doing other things apart from what I was doing. And let me just tell you this. On paper, it all looked good. Oh my gosh, she's traveling the world, making money traveling the world, and she's speaking different languages and whatnot, and beautiful body, young, da 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 da. And to other people, it looked like, oh, you have it all good. Oh, you're all good. And I'm going to tell you this. If on paper, your life looks good, and onto the eyes of other people, it looks good, but deep down, you're feeling frustrated, something isn't right, something isn't clicking, like you're just not satisfied. It doesn't matter how good your life looks on paper or onto the eyes of other people, what you're feeling is the truth. Because you don't feel the things just to feel it. It's there for a reason. If I were to ignore the frustration that I felt back then, I would have missed my calling. Okay? I would have missed the opportunity to do the TEDx talk that I did. I would not have published the book that I published back in 2017. Right? I would have never developed myself into the person that I am today. This calling actually forced me to work on myself. I would have never healed parts of me that I didn't really realize. It's like I knew something's up, but I didn't know what was up. And so parts of me were able to heal because I leaned into my frustration. One of the biggest mistakes we make when we feel an emotion that is very uncomfortable is ignore it. Like I mentioned earlier, your emotions are information from your essence, which is your soul. Some of it can come from your layers, like I mentioned earlier. And even when it does, it has valuable information for you. You cannot afford to ignore your emotions. And this is because you never know what is meant to come out from you leaning into that emotion. You just never know. Back then, I had a strong need for more. I just did not know what that more is. It doesn't matter that you don't know what that more is now. It doesn't mean you ignore that feeling. You never know the things that you are meant to be experiencing in your life. You never know the things that you're meant to live, do, see. You just never know. Be. You never know. This is why the emotions that you feel are not to be ignored. You never know what's supposed to give birth out of that. And so it is my desire that you allow everything that I shared here to really sink in, because your needs matter. Every part of you matters. Your emotions matter. Where your inner being is trying to communicate to you, matters. When you're wanting to transform an area of your life, it doesn't matter what area it is, self-discovery is at the core of that. It's at the core of that. And I'm also going to ask you this, because I'm pretty sure there are many that don't have clarity in their life. They're probably disregarding the needs and put other things first, work first, sacrifice first, pay bills first, this, that. And all of that, yes, work is important. Yes, paying bills are important. All of that is important. I'm not saying it's not important, but when we make outside things more important than our inner world, we suffer along the way. The people around us suffer along the way. I didn't mention this in Spanish. I don't know who needs to hear this in the English version, but you just never know. And the outside world suffers too, because you never know the person that you're meant to become and who you're meant to serve, because you become that person that you become. And when I say that, I don't mean something big, doing something. You have value regardless of what you do or whatnot. And I just want you to know that. So please share this message with other people. You never know who needs to listen to this message. And if you are wanting to gain clarity, you want to understand what is the block that's getting in your way. You are wanting to transform the blocks, because trust me, the blocks are there not to be an obstacle, but to be a staircase. That's the only time to allow something to be a staircase. You don't allow yourself to be a staircase. You allow the obstacles or the blocks to be a staircase, okay? So you're wanting to turn those things into the steps that will take you closer and closer to the life that you want, then I am going to recommend that you schedule your clarity call with me. I'm always placing that link. You can always contact me so we can schedule that call for you. And in that call, we're going to go over where you are now, where you desire to be, what is necessary to close that gap, and how I'm able to help you close that gap. You don't need to be lost. You don't need to be confused. You don't need to be wandering around, what is my obstacle? Oh, let me wait. No, time is your most valuable resource. Use it wisely. You don't have to do this work alone. So with that said, it is my desire that you let all of this sink in, that you implement it, that you let it marinate in your being. And with that said, it is my desire that you live life to the max the way you are destined to live. And until next time, bye for now.